Long before he became a legend, Shaka's life began humbly in 1787 in the Nguni Kingdom. Born to Senzanga Kona, a minor Zulu chief, and Nandi, a Langani princess, Shaka's birth was shrouded in controversy. The union between his parents was unconventional, and Shaka bore the brunt of rejection and shame. As a boy, he was ridiculed by fellow children and expelled, with Nandi to the Langani people. Yet, even in these struggles, Shaka demonstrated an unusual resilience and sharp intellect that foreshadowed his future greatness. Over the years, Shaka and Nandi wandered from one group to another, seeking refuge. These harrowing experiences molded Shaka into a tough, resourceful youth. His intense focus, coupled with the bitterness of rejection, fueled a determination to rise above his circumstances. Unbeknownst to anyone, the boy who herded cattle would one day lead one of Africa's most formidable empires. Shaka's warrior spirit was shaped in the service of Chief Dingiswayo's Mtethwa army during his teenage years. Under Dingiswayo's patronage, Shaka underwent rigorous training. He distinguished himself not only with his physical prowess, but also with his ability to think tactically during battle. Dingiswayo, recognizing Shaka's raw talent, mentored him closely, teaching him the art of leadership and military organization. During his time with the Mtethwa, Shaka began to analyze the weaknesses in traditional warfare. He conceived innovations such as the shorter stabbing spear, known as the iklah, and the tactic of close-quarters combat designed to overwhelm enemies swiftly. These ideas were revolutionary and would later redefine African warfare entirely. Amid this learning, Shaka nurtured an unyielding ambition to return to his roots and claim his rightful place as a leader, a fire that burned fiercely in his heart. Returning to the Zulu clan after years living as an outsider was no easy task for Shaka. After the death of his father, Senzanga Kona, the Zulu leadership fell to Shaka's half-brother, Siguyana, who inherited the chieftaincy. Siguyana's rule was weak, and the Zulu clan remained small and fractured, shadowed by more powerful neighbors like the Mtethwa and Nwandwe. Shaka returned to his homeland with a vision for what the Zulu people could become. But it would not be handed to him. He would have to fight for his rightful place. Backed by Chief Dingiswayo and the powerful Mhawani, Shaka confronted his brother Sigujana. The challenge was swift and decisive. Sigujana was killed, and Shaka assumed leadership of the Zulu clan. However, the transition was not without its obstacles. Many of the Zulu elders doubted the young warrior's ability to rule. Shaka's austere demeanor and his fierce drive for power alienated much of the traditional leadership. Yet his charisma and the backing of the mighty Mtethwa won him the loyalty of key allies within the clan. Securing his position was only the beginning. Shaka quickly recognized that the Zulu's survival depended on uniting the fragmented tribes under one banner. His brutal ambition was tempered by his mother Nandi's wisdom. She reminded him that leadership was not just about conquest, but about building a lasting legacy. Inspired by her words, Shaka resolved to transform the Zulu Kingdom into a formidable force. Now the leader of the Zulu, Shaka turned his focus to forging the clan into a cohesive and disciplined military power. Under his rule, traditional tribal hierarchies were dismantled and a merit-based system was put in place. Warriors earned their ranks not through birthright but through loyalty, discipline, and bravery. This new structure motivated the Zulu people, giving individuals from all walks of life the opportunity to rise in stature, a radical departure from the old ways of leadership. One of Shaka's most brilliant innovations during this period was the creation of the impi, a new kind of military formation. Unlike the loosely organized skirmishes of old, Shaka's impis emphasized tight discipline, coordination, and precision. The bullhorn strategy, which would soon become legendary, was introduced. The army divided into three segments: the horns to encircle the enemy, the chest to engage in direct combat, and the loins to reserve reinforcements. This strategy would prove devastating in the years to come. Shaka also began training his warriors in the use of the now famous ikluwa, the shorter stabbing spear, designed for close combat. He banned the use of sandals, believing that warriors should toughen their feet to move quickly and silently over any terrain. Through relentless drills and discipline, Shaka developed an army that could march for days and strike swiftly like lightning. Slowly, the weaker Zulu clan began to transform into a powerful, fearsome war machine. Despite these achievements, Shaka's leadership style was unforgiving. Dissent was met with ruthless punishment, and his ambition was boundless. He knew that challenges lay ahead, but with every passing day, his confidence grew. The dream of a united Zulu kingdom was no longer a distant fantasy. It was becoming a reality. With his army trained and prepared for conquest, Shaka began the arduous task of uniting the tribes of Zululand under his banner. Some tribes came willingly, seeking the protection and prosperity promised by Shaka's leadership. He approached these groups diplomatically, offering terms of integration that were mutually beneficial. To others, however, Shaka was an implacable force. Resistance was met with total destruction, ensuring that rebellions against the growing Zulu kingdom would be rare. Shaka's military expeditions during this period were marked by brutal efficiency. He quickly established a pattern: strike hard, strike fast, and leave no room for resistance. The tribes that resisted his campaigns were often completely annihilated, sparing only those willing to join his growing empire. Survivors integrated into the Zulu kingdom were treated with respect and dignity, especially if they pledged absolute loyalty to their new leader. This duality, ruthless in battle but benevolent to allies, made Shaka both feared and admired by those around him. Even as he fought battle after battle, Shaka continued to refine his military tactics and reorganize the social structure of newly conquered tribes. His vision was to create not just a kingdom, but a unified nation of people who lived and died for the Zulu cause. Slowly, Shaka's reputation grew beyond the borders of Zululand. Talk of his conquests began spreading through southern Africa, and rival tribes started to take notice. Shaka's rise was not without hardship. He faced numerous assassination attempts, including one from a rival faction within his own people. Each attempt only hardened his resolve, and his keen instincts allowed him to thwart these plots with brutal efficiency. As the Zulu kingdom expanded, so did the legend of Shaka Zulu, the man who was turning the tides of history. Shaka Zulu's vision extended beyond mere domination. He sought unity among the various tribes of Zululand. While most rulers relied on fear alone to consolidate their power, Shaka wielded a complex mix of diplomacy, military might, and cultural integration. He understood that force could win battles, but it was loyalty that created stability. His dream was to forge a singular, cohesive Zulu nation. A kingdom as disciplined as his armies and as unshakable as his will. In his efforts to unite the tribes, Shaka treated those who surrendered with honor and respect. Tribes that voluntarily joined his cause were integrated into the Zulu kingdom with a sense of pride. Their leaders were often given advisory positions in Shaka's council, and their troops were folded into the Zulu army under seasoned commanders. While loyalty was non-negotiable, Shaka allowed these tribes to celebrate their individual customs, fostering a sense of cultural unity while maintaining a Zulu identity. But for those who resisted, there was no mercy. Shaka's campaigns were characterized by swift, brutal discipline. His new military structure ensured that opposition was crushed without hesitation, sending a clear message to surrounding tribes. Unity with the Zulu kingdom meant survival, while resistance meant destruction. This dichotomy allowed Shaka to consolidate power effectively. Though Shaka is remembered as a military genius, his success relied equally on his skill as a diplomat. He developed a knack for reading people, understanding their fears and motivations, and using that knowledge to build alliances. Shaka knew that war weakened all sides, even the victors, so he sought peaceful integration whenever possible. One of his most notable diplomatic achievements was his alliance with neighboring chiefs who saw the benefit of joining the growing Zulu kingdom. By offering incentives such as trade, protection from rival tribes, and integration into his flourishing economy, Shaka convinced many leaders to join him without spilling a drop of blood. This strategic approach allowed the Zulu kingdom to grow quickly and efficiently. However, Shaka was not above manipulating his allies when necessary. He often sowed division among rival factions, weakening them from within before presenting himself as the solution to their problems. This strategy allowed him to bring in fragmented groups while keeping potential threats at bay. Through diplomacy, Shaka also laid the groundwork for trade routes that would later enrich the Zulu kingdom. Skilled in economic matters as well, he ensured that what came with unity was prosperity, an enticing proposition for weaker clans. By the time Shaka turned his eyes toward larger neighboring tribes, his reputation as a powerful but fair leader had already spread far and wide. As the Zulu kingdom expanded, Shaka faced his greatest challenge yet: managing the growing empire. With new territories and diverse cultures joining his realm, the kingdom risked becoming fractured or disorganized. To prevent this, Shaka established a centralized system of governance, positioning himself as an absolute leader while delegating responsibilities to trusted generals and diplomats. Shaka reorganized the clans into military and administrative units, each loyal to the central kingdom rather than tribal heritage. Warriors were forbidden from marrying until they had reached a certain rank, ensuring their focus remained on military and national duties. His system of age regiments, Amabutho, further strengthened loyalty, binding young men from different tribes to the Zulu cause through shared training and experience. Still, Shaka's rule was not without dissent. As the kingdom grew, so did its internal politics. Some former tribal chiefs bristled at their diminished power, and conspiracies against Shaka began to form. Despite these challenges, Shaka's network of spies and his own fearsome reputation ensured that no rebellion gained significant ground. As Shaka's armies expanded into new territories, they faced larger, more organized opposition. The Ndwandwe, led by the formidable chief Zwide, were the dominant force in the region and posed the greatest threat to Zulu unity. Shaka knew that defeating the Ndwandwe would be the ultimate test of his leadership and the resilience of his newly trained army. During this campaign, Shaka's famous bullhorn formation came into play in one of its earliest iterations. His army struck like a well-oiled machine, encircling enemy forces with the horns, attacking head-on with the chest, and keeping reinforcements in the loins. The Ndwandwe, unprepared for the Zulus' disciplined close combat tactics, were repeatedly caught off guard. This battle proved one thing: Shaka's innovative strategies had revolutionized African warfare. The Zulu warriors, disciplined and confident under Shaka's command, struck terror into the hearts of their enemies. The Ndwandwe suffered devastating losses, and though not fully defeated, their power was significantly weakened. This victory marked a turning point for the Zulu Kingdom. Shaka's reputation as a military genius spread farther, and those who had doubted his vision now saw him as unstoppable. The unity he sought for the Zulu people was solidifying, and Shaka was one step closer to achieving his dream of a dominant, united kingdom. With the Ndwandwe losing control over the region, many smaller tribes began flocking to the Zulu banner, seeking protection and stability. Shaka welcomed these tribes, offering a place in his growing empire. By this time, the Zulu kingdom had grown beyond its humble beginnings, with Shaka at its helm as a monarch unrivaled in the region. However, Shaka did not stop at military conquest. He understood that building a nation required more than armies and land. It required identity. Shaka introduced cultural changes that unified his people under a shared banner. Zulu customs were adopted as dominant traditions, creating a sense of pride and belonging among his subjects. Through festivals, rituals, and symbols of Zulu unity, he fostered loyalty to the kingdom rather than tribal factions. Nandi, his beloved mother, remained a central figure, her wisdom often guiding Shaka's decisions. Her influence encouraged him to focus on building alliances within his kingdom, ensuring that the Zulu nation was not held together by fear alone, but also by mutual respect. With the Zulu kingdom firmly established, Shaka now set his sights on consolidating his power through further conquests. The surrounding tribes had taken notice of his growing might, and while some sought to ally with him, others prepared for war. Shaka knew that to secure the Zulu Kingdom's borders and discourage future rebellions, he needed decisive victories against the rival kingdoms that surrounded him. In this phase of his reign, Shaka turned his attention to the Ndwandwe once more. Chief Zwide was regrouping, and lingering tensions between their factions threatened to boil over. To weaken the Ndwandwe further, Shaka initiated a campaign of raids along their borders, disrupting their supply lines and sowing distrust among their allies. He aimed not merely for battle but for psychological warfare, demonstrating that the Zulu could strike at any time, in any place. Shaka also ordered the recruitment of additional warriors from tribes that had been absorbed into the Zulu Kingdom. These new soldiers, motivated by the promise of glory and belonging, were trained rigorously to ensure they embodied the discipline and ferocity that defined the Zulu military. As the ranks of the Zulu Empire swelled, Shaka's confidence and ambition also grew. As the Ndwandwe prepared for Shaka's onslaught, they sought alliances with other tribes that felt threatened by Zulu expansion. Led by Chief Zwide, their desperate attempts to unify against the Zulu forces involved significant bribes and promises of land. Tensions escalated, culminating in a strategic alliance with the Mthethwa, Shaka's former allies who had turned wary of his ambitions. The stage was set for a massive confrontation. Shaka employed his bullhorn strategy again, but enhanced its complexity by utilizing deception and speed. His scouts infiltrated enemy camps, spreading misinformation to erode trust among the Allied forces. This calculated chaos would serve to break morale before any fighting began. When the armies finally clashed on the battlefield, the Zulu warriors displayed their newfound skill. Shaka's tactics overwhelmed the Ndwandwe coalition. Using hit-and-run tactics combined with fierce frontal assaults, the Zulu broke their enemy lines, leading to a decisive victory. The battle was marked by brutal hand-to-hand combat, showcasing the prowess of the Ikwa spear. Zwide was slain, marking a significant turning point in the fight for dominance in the region. Although the Zulu emerged victorious, Shaka faced unexpected consequences. The defeat of the Ndwandwe faction created a power vacuum, inciting smaller tribes to quarrel amongst themselves. As Shaka sought to extend his control over these territories, he found that the once unified fabric of his kingdom was beginning to fray. Shaka's relentless drive for expansion and his increasingly punitive methods of governance began to foster dissent among his own ranks. Some of the former tribal leaders resented their diminished status, and complaints about the harshness of his rule spread among the warriors. Despite his military successes, discontent simmered just beneath the surface. To address these issues, Shaka devised mechanisms to ensure local leaders felt their voices mattered while maintaining his grip on power. He instituted a council of advisors, composed of both old Zulu warriors and representatives from conquered tribes. This council was a calculated move to placate those who felt marginalized and to harness their knowledge of local customs and politics. Emboldened by his consolidation of power, Shaka recognized the Mthethwa as the next major obstacle to Zulu supremacy. Once his allies, they had become wary of his ambitions given the turn of events in the region. When they began rallying other factions against him, Shaka realized that any remaining ties needed to be severed. Rather than wait for an inevitable confrontation, he opted to take the initiative. The siege against the Mthethwa was marked by strategic brilliance. Shaka employed tactics he had honed over the years, utilizing deception to draw Mthethwa forces into trap-filled terrain. The Mthethwa's defensive formations crumbled under hit-and-run guerrilla tactics. Shaka also used psychological warfare. The sounds of Zulu war drums echoed through the night, creating an atmosphere of dread and uncertainty among the besieged. After months of attrition, the Mthethwa stronghold fell. The defeat shattered their coalition, and Shaka's forces swept through, securing control over vast territories. This victory confirmed Shaka's reputation as an indomitable military leader in southern Africa, but it also deepened the internal fractures in his own kingdom, as former Mthethwa allies resisted integration. With many of the rival tribes now decimated or subjugated, Shaka turned to the west, where the powerful Zulu Kingdom remained. Known for their skilled warriors and military traditions, the Zulu represented a formidable challenge. Rather than underestimate them, Shaka crafted a strategy that would test the very limits of his army's endurance and adaptability. The Zulu forces moved swiftly into Ndebele territory, employing strategies tailored to the unique challenges posed by their new opponents. Shaka encouraged hit-and-run tactics aimed at disrupting supply lines and sowing discord. However, the Ndebele fought back with fierce resistance, employing formidable traditional warfare tactics. Both sides suffered heavy losses, testing the resolve of Shaka's armies. Despite the challenges, Shaka's tactics began to turn the tide. His warriors demonstrated exceptional discipline, coordination, and resilience. Through attrition, the Zulu began to wear down the Ndebele forces, leading to a brutal final confrontation, which resulted in a relentless Zulu victory. The conquest of the Ndebele added to Shaka's growing prestige but also spawned new rivalries. As stories of his military prowess circulated, so did tales of his ruthlessness. Ambitious chiefs from distant lands began to plot against him, wary of the empire he was building. As Shaka focused on governance, he could not afford to ignore these rising threats. Not long after the victory over the Ndebele, Shaka faced rebellion from within his kingdom. Discontent from various clans boiled over into open revolt. Their grievances centered around tribute demands and conscription policies that many saw as too severe. A coalition of disaffected tribes, led by former ally King Cetshwayo, mobilized forces seeking independence from Zulu rule. Shaka recognized that addressing this internal strife was crucial for the stability of the kingdom he had fought so hard to build. He ordered suppression of the revolt, but made it clear that he was willing to listen to their grievances. His ability to balance the iron fist of authority with the olive branch of diplomacy would once again be put to the test. The rebellion led by King Cetshwayo erupted across the kingdom. As tensions reached a boiling point, Shaka realized that he needed to quell this uprising swiftly to avoid a prolonged conflict that could destabilize his empire. In an audacious move, Shaka led his army into battle personally, rallying his warriors with a fiery speech that rekindled their loyalty and fervor. The Battle of the Unbowed was marked by fierce combat, as loyal Zulu warriors confronted their own kin in the struggle for dominance. Shaka's skillful use of tactics and unyielding spirit shone through, and despite the emotional toll of the conflict, the Zulu forces triumphed. However, the victory was bittersweet. Many warriors fought for their clans rather than the Zulu cause, deeply dividing the kingdom. With many lives lost, Shaka faced the grim reality of governing a fractured state, where loyalty was now based on fear rather than shared identity. The aftermath of the battle saw Shaka grappling with the consequences of his absolutist rule. In the wake of Shaka's victory over the rebellion, the kingdom was riddled with mistrust, and grievances remained unaddressed. Many clans wished to disassociate themselves from the Zulu leadership, leading to a resurgence of independence movements across the land. Shaka was acutely aware that his dream of a strong, unified Zulu nation hung in the balance. To remedy the growing discontent, Shaka sought out former leaders to serve in his government and create reconciliation initiatives. He promoted social projects to improve life in remote villages, aiming to rebuild trust and loyalty among his people. However, his efforts were met with skepticism, and as he focused on internal affairs, external threats loomed on the horizon. Rival factions from across southern Africa, emboldened by Zulu instability, began to converge. The burgeoning power of the Xhosa and the emergence of guerrilla tactics from the Ndebele indicated that a larger confrontation was on the horizon. The age of conquests may not be over, but the challenges were now deeper and more complex. Despite his best efforts, Shaka found himself surrounded by hostile forces. As neighboring kingdoms, sensing weakness, forged alliances against the Zulu Kingdom, the political landscape grew more precarious. The Xhosa, eager to reclaim their territory, joined forces with former Mthethwa allies and even remnants of the Ndebele warriors. In a desperate bid to hold the kingdom together, Shaka summoned all his generals for a council of war. Discussions centered on new strategies, defensive formations, and the need for rapid mobilization. The looming threat galvanized the Zulu leadership. But old rivalries resurfaced, creating new tensions within their ranks. More importantly, Shaka began to recognize that his unyielding methods were alienating his subjects. While he was determined to maintain control, he understood the importance of winning hearts and minds. He initiated a series of public speeches to communicate a vision of a Zulu identity, committed to respecting local customs while emphasizing the necessity of unity. Yet, mistrust lingered, and with the air thick with tension, the Zulu Kingdom stood on the brink of conflict. As summer approached its end, the storm that Shaka had anticipated finally broke. The rival factions, mobilized in overwhelming numbers, launched a coordinated assault on the Zulu Kingdom. The air filled with the sounds of war drums as Shaka's warriors prepared for battle, a test that would determine the very fate of his empire. Shaka called upon every ounce of his strategic genius. He assembled a large army prioritizing speed and adaptability to counteract the larger coalition forces. The Zulu army was put to the test as the war raged on multiple fronts, each engagement shaping the battle's outcome. Through stark displays of bravery and innovative tactical maneuvers, Shaka's forces fought hard, but the coalition fought fiercely as well. The brutal conflicts took a toll on soldiers and civilians alike, and for the first time, the possibility of defeat weighed heavily on Shaka's shoulders. In the end, the battles fought during this time would shape the Zulu Kingdom for generations. The scars of conflict ran deep, but so did the seeds of resilience, identity, and unity that began to sprout from the ashes. As Shaka Zulu emerged from the maelstrom, he understood that the war was more than just about conquest. It was about creating a legacy that would last far beyond his lifetime. Following the tumultuous battles that nearly shattered his kingdom, Shaka Zulu recognized that his reign could not solely be defined by military conquests. He understood that true leadership required a vision for governance that would sustain the Zulu Kingdom in peace and prosperity. The first step towards this was the establishment of a more structured and representative form of governance. Shaka convened a series of councils with the leaders of the various clans integrated into the Zulu Kingdom. These councils recommended policies aimed at ensuring local representation and addressing grievances that had festered during years of expansion and conflict. Shaka appointed chiefs from previously independent tribes as council members, bridging the gap between old loyalties and new identities. This move not only showcased his political acumen, but also highlighted his commitment to a more inclusive governance system. Additionally, Shaka instituted a formal code of laws, which laid the groundwork for regulatory practices across the kingdom. This not only brought order and predictability to the lives of his subjects, but also built a sense of belonging among the various tribes under Zulu rule. As a visionary, he understood that stable governance was as crucial to the Zulu Kingdom's future as military strength. Understanding the necessity of economic strength to support his burgeoning kingdom, Shaka made substantial reforms in trade practices. Recognizing that control over trade routes would bolster the Zulu economy, he implemented policies that facilitated trade between the diverse tribes in the kingdom and neighboring regions. Shaka appointed trade ambassadors from among the clans, individuals skilled in negotiation and dialogue, to foster relationships with traders from other regions, including the coastal areas. This initiative led to the establishment of trade networks that allowed for the exchange of goods such as cattle, ivory, and gold. The economy flourished as the Zulu Kingdom became a central hub in the regional trade routes. To further enhance economic interdependence and solidarity, Shaka also encouraged the sharing of cultural practices associated with trade. Festivals celebrating trade achievements became common, fostering goodwill and unity among various tribes. The integration of trade into the very fabric of Zulu society was part of Shaka's broader vision for economic growth and stability. With a solid governance structure and prosperous trade routes in place, Shaka turned his attention to military standardization. Realizing that a powerful army required more than sheer numbers, he focused on the development of a military that was disciplined, well-trained, and strategically adept. One of Shaka's revolutionary initiatives was the standardization of military training. He instituted a comprehensive training program that all warriors had to undergo, which included combat techniques, tactics, and physical resilience. Shaka's approach ensured that all warriors, regardless of their original tribal affiliations, were trained in the same methods and could work seamlessly together in battle. Additionally, Shaka restructured the ranks within the army to create a clear hierarchy and chain of command. The introduction of specialized roles such as scouts, shield bearers, and spear throwers allowed the Zulu army to employ versatile strategies on the battlefield. This militaristic reform not only enhanced the effectiveness of the Zulu warriors, but also reinforced loyalty to the Zulu crown rather than individual tribal leaders. To instill a sense of identity and shared purpose among his warriors, Shaka introduced a code of conduct known as the Warrior's Code. This code emphasized values such as loyalty, bravery, and respect for one's fellow warriors. Moreover, it addressed the treatment of captives and the ethics of warfare, asserting that valor should not come at the expense of humanity. The Warrior's Code molded Zulu soldiers into not just fierce combatants, but also honorable individuals who embodied the principles of the Zulu Kingdom. This transformation was crucial in distinguishing the Zulu military ethos from other tribes that often viewed warfare differently. The code established a collective pride, which acted as a glue that held together the diverse elements of Shaka's army. As word of the Warrior's Code spread, it garnered respect not only among the Zulu warriors, but also among neighboring tribes. This reputation further served to elevate Shaka's stature as a ruler who combined strength with moral consideration, solidifying his legacy as a visionary leader. Shaka was not content to rest on his laurels after implementing the Warrior's Code and standardizing military training. Recognizing that innovation was crucial for maintaining his army's advantage, he sought out new technologies and tactics that could enhance the Zulu war machine. Among his most important reforms was the improvement of weaponry. Shaka outlawed the use of outdated weapons in favor of lighter and more deadly Ikwa spears, which allowed for close combat engagement without compromising mobility. He also encouraged the development of shields and armors designed for protection, while still not hindering flexibility on the battlefield. Strategically, Shaka led initiatives to scout and gather intelligence prior to engagements. This foresight allowed the Zulu forces to adapt their tactics specifically to the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, minimizing the risks and maximizing the effectiveness of their strikes. Shaka's willingness to experiment and innovate positioned the Zulu army. While Shaka focused on military and economic reforms, he also recognized the importance of cultural unity in promoting a sense of identity and belonging among the Zulu people. He believed that cultural solidarity was essential for consolidating his power in an increasingly diverse kingdom. Shaka championed the arts, encouraging music, dance, and storytelling as mediums through which the Zulu cultural narrative could be expressed and experienced. He commissioned the creation of epic poems and songs that celebrated Zulu heroes, historical victories, and the kingdom's unity, laying the foundation for cultural pride. These artistic expressions were not merely for entertainment, they served as tools of education for the youth, instilling a sense of heritage and purpose. Festivals celebrating Zulu culture and achievements became semi-annual traditions, further cementing the shared identity and resilience of his people. Under Shaka's leadership, the Zulu Kingdom became a regional powerhouse. Recognizing the necessity of a sustainable approach to governance and expansion, he emphasized the importance of diplomacy. Shaka promoted the idea of diplomacy not just as a tool for negotiations, but as an essential part of his political strategy. Shaka established formal relationships with neighboring kingdoms. He sent envoys to create diplomatic channels, using marriage alliances, trade partnerships, and treaties to foster peace and stability. Through these diplomatic efforts, Shaka managed to stave off potential threats from other tribes seeking to consolidate their power. His vision for a Zulu-led regional order began to take root. as neighboring chiefs saw the benefits of cooperation versus confrontation with a formidable Zulu kingdom. As a result, the political landscape shifted, creating a balance of power wherein Shaka's rule was recognized and acknowledged by many of his neighbors. Understanding that a powerful ruler needed knowledgeable advisors and informed subjects, Shaka placed a premium on education within the Zulu Kingdom. He initiated programs to educate young men and women in various fields: military tactics, governance, trade practices, and even traditional healthcare. To facilitate this, Shaka established learning centers where elders could impart wisdom and practical knowledge to the next generation. These centers became hubs of cultural and intellectual exchange, fostering greater unity and deepening the understanding of Zulu history and heritage. By investing in education, Shaka not only cultivated capable leaders for the future, but also reinforced the idea that all Zulu people shared a common purpose. Education became a tool of empowerment, creating a literate populace that could contribute meaningfully to the kingdom's governance and prosperity. As the years went by, Shaka's comprehensive reforms began to bear fruit. The Zulu Kingdom emerged as a cohesive entity, embodying strength, culture, and economic vigor. The centralized governance system promoted stability, allowing for far-reaching initiatives that benefited the people. Trade flourished, as newly established trade routes provided access to resources previously unattainable. The Zulu economy blossomed, leading to a rise in the standard of living among his subjects. The cultural renaissance instilled pride and unity across the kingdom, reducing the desire for rebellion and promoting cooperation among the clans. The military standardization and innovations introduced by Shaka turned the Zulu army into an unstoppable force, yielding respect from allies and foes alike. Shaka's emphasis on honorable warfare and the establishment of the warrior's code cemented a foundation of values that would resonate through generations. As his reign progressed, Shaka Zulu's legacy materialized not solely through his conquests, but through his vision of a united, prosperous Zulu kingdom. He had transformed what began as a collection of tribes into a functioning nation with a clear identity, economic opportunities, cultural pride, and military strength. Adapting to the challenges of leadership, Shaka had established governance structures that were inclusive and adaptive. His reforms in trade and military standardization ensured lasting stability, while his educational initiatives prepared future leaders to uphold his vision. Though he faced opposition and strife, Shaka's legacy would become synonymous with visionary leadership. Even after his lifetime, the principles he instilled would continue to guide the Zulu people, fostering resilience, unity, and pride. As tales of his accomplishments grew, both allies and rivals would remember him as a historic leader whose impact would echo throughout time. As the Zulu kingdom flourished under Shaka's reforms, the seeds of discontent began to take root among those closest to him. While many had benefited from Shaka's policies, some traditional leaders grew restless with his centralization of power and disregard for their previous autonomy. Among them was Prince Sigujana, Shaka's half-brother, who believed he should play a more significant role in governance. Whispers of discontent spread through the court and among the chiefs of the conquered tribes, fueled by nostalgia for the old ways and supported by a small faction of disgruntled warriors. Sigujana and his supporters began scheming against Shaka. They argued that the Zulu kingdom had lost its roots under Shaka's rule, that the unity he championed came at the expense of tradition and identity. Aware of the brewing unrest, Shaka called for loyalty among his warriors and leaders, seeking to reaffirm his commitment to their shared identity. Nevertheless, the tension simmered beneath the surface, and plots of betrayal were unfolding in the shadows. The atmosphere of discontent boiled over when Sigujana and his faction finally challenged Shaka's authority openly. They organized a coup, leveraging the grievances of the traditional leaders who felt sidelined by Shaka's vision. The rebels called for a return to traditional governance and the decentralization of power, seeking to divide the kingdom into semi-autonomous regions ruled by local leaders. When news of the insurrection reached Shaka, he was both shocked and enraged. Despite his reforms and efforts to create a sense of unity, it became evident that he had underestimated the strength of the traditional power structures. Faced with opposition from someone so closely connected to him, Shaka's heart was heavy with betrayal. Mobilizing his loyal forces, Shaka prepared to confront the insurrection head-on. He understood that this act of rebellion was not just a personal affront, but also a direct threat to the stability of the kingdom he had worked so hard to build. The stage was set for a violent confrontation. The War of Succession erupted swiftly as factions formed around Siguyana and Shaka. One side rallied behind Shaka's vision of a strong, centralized kingdom, while the other clung to the traditional roles of chiefdom and local governance. The conflict not only pitted brother against brother, but also divided families and communities across the Zulu territory. As battles raged, the war proved to be a bitter and prolonged struggle. Siguyana employed guerrilla tactics, using the vast and varied terrain to his advantage. His knowledge of local loyalties and forces allowed him to outmaneuver Shaka's army in several initial encounters, winning the support of many who felt disenchanted with Shaka's rule. Shaka, in return, adapted his strategies to counter the insurgents. He sought to win over neutral factions through diplomacy, promising to listen to grievances and to take their interests into account. Despite these efforts, the conflict wore on, and the toll it took on the Zulu people became unbearably visible. As the War of Succession continued, signs of resistance began to manifest in other parts of the kingdom. Some clans, emboldened by Siguyana's rebellion, questioned Shaka's authority, unsure if his vision truly represented the interests of all Zulu people. Internal discontent festered, and factions emerged, advocating for varied reforms of their own. In areas previously loyal to Shaka, rumors spread that a new alliance of traditional chieftains was forming, seeking to detangle the Zulu Kingdom from Shaka's autocratic grip and restore local governance. This coalition leveraged the war and dissatisfaction of the people to turn some against Shaka, presenting their alternative as a righteous return to tradition. Caught in the middle of this political upheaval, Shaka felt the weight of leadership pressing upon him. He was no stranger to conflict, but the collapse of unity in what he had fought so hard to build was a bitter pill to swallow. The external resistance threatened to undermine all he had accomplished, forcing him to rethink his approach and confront the roots of the growing division. This is the first part of the legend that rescued humanity from slavery, where we dive deeper into the incredible tale of Shaka Zulu and explore the legacies of legendary figures throughout history. From the rise and fall of great leaders to the profound lessons they left behind, our channel brings you captivating stories that inspire and educate. Hit the subscribe button now and join us on a journey through time, where we uncover the triumphs and trials of the world's most fascinating legends. Don't miss out. Your next great adventure awaits. Watch out for part 2 of the story.